enough coffee to do it, but I guess not enough of you know that monkey yet, because nobody laughed at that. That's the one where he got on stage at some conference and went, developers, sweating bullets, and anyway, that's not going to be me. We are, about 80% of the messages that will come out around 851 are going to be about revitalizing the developer ecosystem around Notes and Domino. We've done it in the product now with composite applications, the Eclipse architecture with Notes 8, the introduction of X Pages and Domino Designer and Eclipse in 8.5, and X Pages support in the client and the new editors in 851. Put all that together, come up with extensions to the community like OpenNTF, update our solutions catalog, which you can check out the new version of on our Lotus Greenhouse. All sorts of things are happening, and there will be more when we launch 851. So I probably could have flipped this and done this before the OpenNTF, but another aspect of integration with the ecosystem is to go find major partners, whether they be ERP vendors like SAP or mobile vendors like Nokia and RIM, and use them to amplify our message into the market. Any SAP customers in the room or no? Got a couple of hands. So I always talk about Alloy because it's an example of what you can do with the Notes 8 client environment, whether or not you're an SAP customer. Clearly, in the SAP environment, it has tremendous value. I met with an SAP shop when I was in Australia this week, and they don't have even basic things like trip and leave approval or vacation approval deployed out in their organizations, even though those are the most fundamental aspects of the SAP HR modules, because of the reach of the client issue. They don't want to have to deploy the SAP client to everybody. They don't want to have to teach people how to use a web user interface just to go sign on to approve a vacation request. So when we and SAP got together to build this product, the whole concept was contextual collaboration, put everything in the console. So it's not just that you see in the main body of this message, this email that I didn't have to leave my notes environment for, that I have approve and reject buttons. It's that here in the sidebar, my contextual information has come up. This particular email is a trip request, and what's come up in the sidebar is what's my travel budget? What's my department's travel budget? Do I have the money to approve this particular request? I didn't have to go leave the notes environment, go generate a report somewhere else to find that out. It all came to me in the context of that travel request. And the reason the bolds are on here is because we're going to extend the Alloy functionality out to the RIM devices, out to browsers. We're going to keep building on this Alloy thing. So even though it does trip and leave and reports and a couple other things, the real value of this toolkit is any kind of workflow that exists in the SAP environment, bill of materials kinds of solutions, CRM kinds of things, can be exposed out to that Notes client. So we've built this solution, or we in SAP have built it, but you as partners or developers can build all sorts of integration with all sorts of different backends and bring that kind of contextual application into the Notes environment. Another aspect of integration is our mobility story. And while 2 years ago, or maybe 3, our answer to mobility was we have some really great partners. We've kind of turned the 180 degrees on that and are really heading in the direction of not thinking about mobility as something different any more than we think about the browser as something different from the Notes client. We just want to have a pervasive strategy that the rich client, a thin client, a mobile client, a netbook, whatever it may be, can all access the Domino services in an appropriate way for that device that takes advantage of that device, that operating system, that environment, but still has the common characteristics of the Notes Domino infrastructure. So one of the components of 851 is that we finally, say it that way, have built integration with the iPhone. The reason for that finally is probably more like one of Richard's over a beer conversations than what I can say on a microphone in front of 140 people. But this is coming in 851. It's on the Greenhouse now if you want to test it and don't want to deploy an 851 server. If you are anxious to deploy 851 and check this stuff out, I can really pretty much get anybody into the beta of 851 to do that today. We have 400 or 500 customers that have downloaded the beta of the Traveler component from 851. And despite 400 or 500 beta testers, we've had 18, now that's 19 defects reported. This is very, very solid code. The team that works on Traveler has been iterating really fast to ensure that we have a first-class experience with the iPhone and Traveler and 851. And we're continuing to build the iNotes Ultralight interface as well for a browser-based experience. So again, extending the ecosystem. Every time we issue a press release that includes the word iPhone, we get like 2,000 coverage articles. I mean, it's a tremendous way for us to push out into the market is to be partnered up with this device. So another way to extend the ecosystem and the reach is to think about linked value within our own portfolio. And I'm not going to sit here and give you a whole pitch on all the Lotus products and where everything's going. You'll learn about some of that, obviously, during the rest of the conference, and then, there's way more than I could possibly cover. But Symphony is a pretty important part of our story overall in terms of this notion of extending the value of the collaboration console. How many have Symphony as a daily tool in your environment? All right, more hands than I'm getting in a lot of other places. That's good to see. Symphony is not just a Me Too office productivity thing that we threw out there, because the market needed yet another productivity suite. It didn't necessarily, but there's a set of sort of table stakes you have to get at in order to establish that personal productivity element. So when I say that the theme of where I believe Notes will go is around helping individuals be more productive in the context of collaboration, Symphony is a component of that. Symphony, as it ships today, is a great product. It's won all sorts of awards. Bloor Research talks about it as the full engineering excellence of an IBM product. But it's really the start of a journey, not the end of it. And what we're trying to do is meet the needs of users. So with Symphony today, we started with what do we have to do to gain entry, to get the conversation going. Giving it away is a good start. But it has to be useful. It has to do exactly what what the user expects an office productivity suite to be able to do. But then we're trying to move up this pyramid, and we've delivered sort of 3/4 of it already. Link value across IBM Lotus software, so being able to do things like plug into Lotus Live or quicker or connections or notes. We've done kind of all of that. We'll keep iterating on that. Programmability, so delivering Lotus script within the Symphony environment. Delivering it as part of the Eclipse-based client environment so that you can build applications and extensions. We've done that, continue to evolve on that. But then what we really want to get to is this beyond Office notion of a breakthrough experience. We had to establish that we were serious about being in the productivity space and ship Symphony to get that mind share and the market share. And while we right now maybe have, I think Forrester says we have 1.8% of the market. But if Microsoft claims that there are 500 million users of Office, then 1.8% of that, it's not a bad number, right? I'll take that as a market share for establishing a product, over a year's time. But what we really want to do is iterate. In our labs, we have 20 or 30 different projects right now that we lump into this beyond Office category that are intended to help users be more productive. We don't think that it makes sense to then go deliver, some different model for a word processor. It's great that we have Symphony. We need it as a table stakes. But what we really want to do is help users be more productive in different ways. So, we'll see where these 20 different projects go. An example is one we call Slide River. So when I go build a presentation like this, it's rare that I start with file new, right? I almost always start with existing libraries of slides and try to figure out what are the ones that I need that make the most sense to a particular audience. So this tool, Slide River, helps me see the library of all the presentations that my team uses, that other parts of IBM are using, and share those slides out and figure out how to compile the best possible presentation for a particular audience. So whether we productize that as part of Notes or Symphony or Lotus Live, I don't really know yet. But we're trying to do things that are not just sort of 1+ on the office productivity stuff that we've been doing for the last 20, 25 years, but instead do things that are truly innovative. So, it's part of where I think that we need to go is building this foundational thing that evolves beyond what office productivity is about today and helps the individual and the entire environment.